the United Kingdom and talking about its politics, let's tell you about its weather conditions. They're reeling under that extreme heat wave. The Mercury crossing 40 degrees Celsius mark, and Heathrow in London has recorded as its temperature 40.2 degrees on the thermometer, really. The previous record was held by Cambrige when the temperature there had touched 38.7 degrees. This happened in 2019 in the month of July. The extreme heat wave warning has been put in place for coming days too. Power networks have been impacted. The railways there has issued an advisory not to travel. Scientists, of course, now warning that the rise in temperatures is being caused by climate change and global warming. The writing had been on the wall, but let's understand this a little better by what we are seeing, the kind of changes in our weather conditions all across the world. And heat wave right now in Western Europe is capturing our minds. Chandra Bhushan, environmentalist and CEO at iFOREST, is joining us. Good to have you with us, sir. Do tell us, these sweltering temperatures, they've hit much of Western Europe. Extreme heat warnings being issued in France. Record July temperatures reported in the Netherlands too. What, in your understanding, are the real leading reasons?
Well, it is global warming. There is absolutely no doubt about it. We now have a new science of attribution. We can actually calculate back and see whether there is any linkage between greenhouse gas emissions, global warming, and the kind of heat wave that we are witnessing in Europe right now and what we experienced in India in March and April. A recent attribution study for Indian heat wave that we had in April now shows that because of global warming, this heat wave, chances of having such heat wave has increased by 30 times, not 30%. So we have entered a new era of extreme heat, not only in India, but across the world. And this 40-degree temperature in UK is much more devastating because their buildings are not designed to withstand this kind of heat. Their building is designed for cold conditions. They do not even have fans and air conditioners. So heat, even 40-degree heat, which is quite fine for us, is going to be devastating for them.
What is also devastating, sir, is the deadly fires. Those are getting reported, and across Western Europe, France, Portugal, Spain, Greece, they've forced thousands of people to evacuate homes. I'm wondering whether wildfires really are a natural extension of these heat wave conditions, and are they likely to worsen the heat wave?
Absolutely. They are going to feed each other. Heat wave creates dry air, increased temperature, and higher wind. Now, when you have these three factors, high heat, dry air, and higher wind, and you have a biomass, combustion will happen. And that's what exactly is happening right now in continental Europe, in south of Europe as well. And the other problem in Europe is they have completely finished their natural forest. The forest that you see in Europe is largely man-made monoculture, which are much more susceptible to wild. This is also a lesson for us in India, who think that a lot of us think that we can clear natural forest and create artificial monoculture forest, which will serve the same purpose. Europe example shows the importance of keeping natural forest. So if those forests would have been, biodiverse forests, such heat wave and such wildfire wouldn't have happened.
And also, now these heat waves, since they've become more frequent, more intense, they last longer because of human-induced climate change, like you mentioned, and this has happened in recent times. We're seeing cases of flooding, of drought. All of these are happening all too soon and all too often. How prepared are we to take on the ravages of nature in the future, in your understanding? What are the options before governments of the world, besides cutting emissions, before even attempting net zero now, to tackle the onslaught of nature that puts our very survival at risk?
Absolutely. The global temperature has increased only by 1.1 degrees compared to pre-industrial era. And 1.5 degrees is more or less locked in. With the kind of fossil fuel investments that has already been made, the kind of inertia that is there in the economy right now, 1.5 degrees is locked in. We will have to work really hard to even cap temperature increase to 1.5. Otherwise, we will hit 2 degrees. Now, think about it. At 1.1, we have record heat waves. Monsoon has gone all over the place. Rainfall patterns have changed. Drought and flood happened together. In fact, currently in India, one part of India is experiencing flood, whereas other part of India is experiencing drought. And right now, which is not in news right now, is that Delhi's temperature, actually the wet bulb temperature, was 36 degrees, which is again unthinkable. Wet bulb temperature, which is a combination of humidity and heat, is actually far more dangerous than high dry temperature. Nevertheless, if at 1.1 degree, this is what we are experiencing and governments are not prepared, think what will happen at 1.5, which is logged in.
Yes.
And think what will happen at 2 degrees if you do not take action. So I think it is urgent that governments of the world, across the world, decide to hit net zero as quickly as possible. Because I don't think we can prepare for 2 degrees.
Right.
I think there is a limit till which you can prepare.
Right.
Beyond that, you can't prepare.
Well, we're already seeing the effects of climate change in Europe, and they were highlighted earlier this month as well when a melting glacier triggered that avalanche. It killed a lot of people. Now, experts are talking about, over in Italy, they're warning that new crevices are opening up on alpine peaks too, and that ice is melting even on Western Europe's highest mountain, the Mont Blanc. Of course, as far as extreme heat warnings are concerned, they've been issued, and they cover central, northern, southeast England. A reversal of these extreme weather conditions, are they even possible right now, is what we're discussing, whether we've really missed the bus, so to speak. And that's something we'll keep tracking as long as we can. But thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on this, as important as it is to talk about what we are seeing as a global phenomenon, these climate changes. Chandra Bhushan, environmentalist and CEO of iFOREST, joining us there.